We will get started. Hello, welcome everybody to Phoenixville Library, those of you in our community room and those of you on Zoom, to our presentation on AI. What is AI? Why is it all the talk today? What do we need to worry about it? What are its implications? To answer some of those questions and more, we have with us tonight Tom Pantazes, who is Assistant Director of Reflective Practice and Scholarship with the Teaching and Learning Center at Westchester University. Before we get to Tom, just one note for questions. Please type any questions into the chat. Those of you on Zoom and those of you in the room, you can please hold your questions until the end of Tom's presentation. With that, Tom, take it away.
All right, well, first let me say thank you to the library for the opportunity to come speak with all of you and share a little bit. I'm looking forward to hearing some of your thoughts and questions when we get to the end. I want to try to get through everything first. And I also want to say thank you to you for being here and taking some time out of your busy schedules to learn a little bit more about this thing that's in our world here. So let me make sure I can get this clicker to go the direction I want it to. Excellent. So I was going to introduce myself, but I thought it would be way more fun if we let AI do it instead, so hopefully this works.
Tom Pantazes is an instructional designer at Westchester University, where he works closely with faculty to enhance digital learning experiences. His expertise lies in innovative instructional design and the effective use of technology in teaching. Tom also co-hosts a podcast with the Office of Digital Learning and Innovation, where he explores practical applications of interactive and multimedia content in education. His work reflects a commitment to making learning more engaging, accessible, and impactful through thoughtful integration of digital tools.
All right, how do you think the AI did?
Okay, pretty good.
Okay, does it sound like me?
Yes, it does.
It does sound like me a little bit. If you know what I talk and how I talk, there's a couple little tells in there, but for the most part, if you haven't heard me before, it sounds pretty good. Is this accurate?
You tell us.
Oh, I'm asking you right now. You pulled this up as a bio about me. Is it accurate?
Seems accurate.
Seems accurate, right?
I wouldn't know if it's accurate.
You wouldn't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
So it is not accurate, not even close. Couple things. I was an instructional designer 9 months ago, but I'm not anymore. And when I ran this 2 weeks ago, it still hadn't caught up to the title change. I'm assistant director. I do co-host a podcast, but it's not with this office. This is actually the old name of our office from 3 years ago. And while this is something that I do, it's my research focus. It is not what I talk about on the podcast, which is what this says. I co-host a podcast where we talk about these things. So, not exactly accurate, but in some very subtle ways, right? Like if you don't know me, you wouldn't be able to pick that up. And I use this example here up front because I think it highlights well the significant pitfall of these tools. They are not search tools. I think you were asking about Google, right? They are not necessarily going to get you to the right information. They might, but they also might not. You're still going to need some expertise and some knowledge to be able to evaluate what they're giving you to figure out if it's in fact helpful or not. So we're going to come back to that theme a few times here as we go. This is the agenda for tonight. We're going to start kind of going over what it is and how it works very simply, because these can get complex quickly. We're going to talk a little bit about some concerns, some impacts, some things that are not great about AI. And then I'm going to end with some of the more practical, like what you can actually do with it and how it can be helpful. So that's the plan. So let's start with a definition. AI is a branch of computer science that aims to create intelligent systems capable of perceiving their environment, understanding and interpreting data, learning from experience, and then making decisions or predictions. So if you think about those things, those are things we do as humans, right? We pay attention to what's going on in our environment. We look at the inputs that are coming to us or other things that we read or engage with and make some decisions. We learn from those things, from our experiences, and we do make predictions. If you put that another way, artificial intelligence is the simulation of human intelligence. But it's being done in machines, enabling them to perform tasks and make decisions that typically require human intelligence. So AI has kind of three key areas to it. There's computer vision, which is where machines use sensors to detect things in the world, kind of like we use our senses to detect things. So cameras act like eyes. Microphones act like ears, things like that. So that's gathering data. There is a predictive analytics component, which is where we make guesses based on data, we make predictions based on data. And then there is a generative AI piece, and that is the creation of content. Creating writing, creating audio, creating video. And we're going to focus mostly on the generative side today, because that's what ChatGPT does. It generates things based on prompts that you put into it. All right. In that generative AI component, you have different tools that will create text, that will create audio, they can create music, they can create sound like my voice that you heard a minute ago. They can create pictures, they can create video. All of those things can be created by AI tools. These are some of the more common and popular ones that you may have heard of. I know ChatGPT is the one that gets the most attention, but these are other tools that are out there. And then this is Google's, and from what I've been reading recently, it's kind of on the up. So this is certainly not an exhaustive list. There are lots of them out there, but this gives you a little sense of some different ones that are around. Has anybody used any of these? Yes? No choice? Which ones have you used? Let me just get a sense here. Yeah.
The three in the upper left corner.
3 in the upper left corner? Like these?
Right.
Okay. They're pretty common. These are like the big.
That's the upper right corner.
Yeah. Close enough. I knew what he meant.
Yeah, ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. Okay.
I've seen Copilot too, but I don't know where I saw it.
Yeah. This is Microsoft's, and it's actually like a version of this, but we can get into that later.
Who makes ChatGPT? Is that Google?
ChatGPT is made by a company called OpenAI. This is Microsoft. This is a company called Anthropic. Google. Meta is Facebook. I believe DALL-E is another OpenAI. Perplexity. It's I think it's its own company. It's a little bit different in that it like tries to be a search engine.
Be careful what you say, we're not even using.
All right, let's see. I just want to point out too that AI tools have a long history. They didn't just appear 3 years ago. They've been around for a while. We've been working towards this for a while. I want to say back in 1950, 51, somewhere in there, there was a group of computer scientists that got together and kind of started the process of what eventually got us to here. I am old enough to remember Deep Blue, the IBM computer.
Who's that voice? Is
It's one of the
Aren't
folks.
they
Yeah, I'm going to take care of that.
Yeah, he's got it in
He
the
got
back.
the magic
Yeah.
button.
So
Machines.
this is something that's been going on for a long time. Even ChatGPT from 3 years ago that kind of broke out, that became very popular, that was version 3. They had previous versions that we just didn't hear about in the way that we've heard about them recent. All right, so how do they work? We're going to dig into that a little bit. And the answer to that is nobody really knows how they work, in the sense of if you put a prompt in, you cannot trace all the decisions that get made in the tool that gets you to the end result. So no one can trace the exact decision pattern or tree. We have a general sense of what's going on, but what's happening with these tools in between prompt and result is a little bit of a black box. So the best we can do is kind of talk about that overall structure, and I'm going to do that here. I'm going to give you a little sense of that. All right, I'm going to focus this explanation on the text creators, the generation of text. The process is basically the same for video or audio or pictures or things like that. They operate a little bit differently, but not drastically so. So, at a big level, AI tools assign a really complex number to every word. They call them vector notations. And those numbers allow the words and the relationship between words to be mapped out. It's kind of like how latitude and longitude lets you find a location on the planet, but also you can use latitude and longitude to talk about how places are related to each other or not related to each other because they're far apart. So what you see on the left here is an example of how those relationships can be mapped. So for example, cat is closer in proximity to words like dog and kitten and puppy because there's a relationship in our language between those words. They will come in closer proximity to each other more often because of the way we use them. And so they use numbers to represent that in the tool. And those numbers can convey a lot of meaning. So how do they get those numbers to the different words? They run the words through a series of what are called transformers or layers. Do you have a question, Kelly, or can you wait till the end? Is it like, I don't know, should I ask it? Go ahead.
Bernie, is the transformer used the same way for all the platforms and all the, algorithms?
Let me keep going and that may answer your question. So I'm going to use an example. We have the start of a sentence at the top here, right? John wants his bank to catch the, okay. The first transformer's job might be to just find the verbs. So that layer is going to look at the sentence and find the verbs, which are wants and cache. And it knows enough to be able to kind of get some sense of how those words are being used. It takes that information that it's identified and it passes it on to the next layer or transformer. So at the second transformer in this example, maybe that layer's job is to add some more clarity. So in that instance, it's going to find the pronoun, his, and then it's going to clarify that the word bank is a financial institution and not like the bank shot of a basketball. Okay? So it's adding a little more information, and that information, as it finds these things, is encoded in those numbers. It becomes a more complex number. And so then it takes that information and it passes it on to the next layer. Now, this is just layer 1, layer 2, right? ChatGPT 3, which is like multiple versions ago from where we are right now, had 90-something layers to it. So you can think about like how much information can get clarified as it goes. Now to your question, Kelly, my understanding is the transformer layers are different in the different models. So it depends on how the model is configured where you get these different layers.
So that implies that the tokens or the number assigned to each word is also different for all these different platforms.
It can be, yes, if I'm understanding it correctly. All right, and each layer, you can see how the understanding gets a little bit more refined each time so that it can then get to a point where it really grasps what's going on. So those number notations are really complex, like really complex. We're talking, again, I'm going to reference ChatGPT 3, and the reason I'm not mentioning newer stuff is because they stopped telling us about it. So they were like, it's a proprietary secret, we're not going to share it anymore. So that's why I have these older data points. ChatGPT 3, those word vectors, so for each word, they were talking 12,000 dimensions worth of information, like 12,000 pieces of data attached to each word. The English language has got a lot of words in it. But what that did is it allowed the tool to keep a lot of notes on each word in relation to other words. So for example, let's say that we reached the 60th layer of those 90 layers we were working through. All this information about just one word might be captured in the AI tool. So it would know that John is all these things. And at that point in the process, it may also be able to have some information about, say, Cheryl, and it would know that there's a connection here. And the numbers would be shared in a way that that connection would be established. So if you're thinking 12,000 points of data per word, and then it starts to make these connections between words, you get a very complex web that gets developed that can start to find, they can use to find patterns.
You say that's similar to like DNA? You can find a relationship because there's so many data points with John, sort of like a DNA.
Yes,
And then you compare.
and Cheryl's got a similar set of stuff, but some of them are going to be connected in a numerical way that will then allow relationships and patterns to be identified. So that's probably, you're probably in the right direction there. And what the goal of all this is to get to that point where they can make predictions about what would come next. So if you ask it a question, it can predict with a pretty high certainty, this is what the answer needs to be. All right. So just to get in a teeny little bit more detail about what was happening in each of those layers, two things. First, those really complex vector numerical notations are communicating with each other to find the connections. So like that John and Cheryl have a relationship. They're passing that data back and forth, and then it's making a set of predictions at each layer. And the predictions get better and better the deeper you get into the model. So the further down the layers you get, the closer and closer it gets to a good answer. So in order for it to do this, and each layer has something like 1.2 billion things for it to consider. It's like, these numbers are huge. In order for the models to get to the point where it can do this, they have to be trained. So they kind of have to be taught how to find these relationships and how to make these connections. And the guys that I've been pulling information from, Lee and Trott, who are the quote up at the beginning of this little section, they use the analogy of how we use the shower faucets to get the temperature just right in the shower. If it's a little too cold, you twist it a little warmer, or vice versa. The AI is doing the same thing when it's being trained, except instead of two things, there's like 50,000 knobs and a whole bunch of valves and all sorts of other stuff going on. So the training takes a long time to get right because they've got to test all those different combinations for each and every single word. So again, ChatGPT 3 had to repeat that like knob twisting process billions of times, once for each word of training data. And OpenAI, which is the company that created ChatGPT, estimates that it took more than 300 billion trillion calculations to train the model. So to give you some context, that's months of work for dozens of high-end computers just to get the models ready for use, which is what we do with them now. So that is as far as I will go into the technical. If you are interested in learning more, this article from Lee and Trott is a really good kind of explanation. I had to read it a couple times just to make sure I had grasped it fully. But if you want to dig into the weeds of how these things work, this is a good way to do it without a lot of that or that. All right, so there's two things I want you to take away so far. One, they are not search engines. They are not Google. They are prediction engines. They are making a prediction, and predictions can sometimes be wrong.
So,
Yes.
Google goes into databases,
Goo-
searches databases?
You're asking where the data come from.
Google is finding something that exists and putting it in front of you based on your query. AI is predicting your answer based on your query. So sometimes it will be right, sometimes it will not be right. Just depends.
I keep finding that it's inaccurate.
Yes, I will get to that too. The other thing I want to mention is I've talked about a lot of big numbers, right? And lots of calculation. All of that takes a lot of energy and a lot of computing power to happen. So let's dig into both of those things a little bit. All right, early on with these tools, if you prompted an AI tool in the month of December, the month we're in right now, your output would be not as good as if you prompted it in a different month. Does anybody want to take a guess as to why? What happens in December that doesn't really happen in any other month of the year?
The days get shorter.
The days get shorter,
There's less light energy coming
less
in.
light. Okay, what else? What do we think?
People take vacation days.
People take vacation days, like a lot of people at a pretty consistent time, right? The model figured out we were not as productive as a society in the last 2 weeks of December, and it mimicked that. It decided like, oh, this is what's going on in this thing that I'm looking at, so we're just gonna we're gonna do what that's doing. It found the pattern at a scale that is like so much larger. Like I never would have thought of that, but it's true when you think about it, right? We're not as productive as a society in the back 2 weeks of December. Everybody goes
Getting
home.
ready for Christmas.
I know I'm not.
Um,
In the US. That's
in
productive.
the U.S., but these
Yeah.
models are trained primarily on
Last couple of weeks of work,
Western
man.
data.
Sometimes it's gonna be global.
Their ability to find patterns at scale is pretty mind-blowing, and we'll see some other examples of that. But all that size, all that computing requires a lot of computing power. So another question for you all. Which of these 5 things is the worst for the environment in terms of energy used and water consumed? And you can just show me with your hand which answer you're going to guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And I want to see some guesses. We've
Give
got
us a chance to read it.
Yeah. So first one is generating a paragraph of AI text. Second is charging your smartphone from 0 to 100. Third is watching an hour of Netflix. 4 is an hour of a 10-person Zoom meeting, so pretty close to what we're doing right now. And 5 is scrolling TikTok for 30 minutes over 5G. What do we think? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1.
I see a lot of 1s. I see a couple 5s. Take a guess. What do you think?
5.
5? You got a guess?
I'll do 4.
4?
We have a 1 guess on Zoom,
1 guess on Zoom.
5 on Zoom.
I see 5. All right, are we ready for the answer? Here we go. You made your guess. The answer is actually 4.
4. I get the lollipop. Cheater.
The news media often portrays AI as this really bad for the environment thing. However, many of the stories that I look at will often take a trend and assume it will continue into the future, which is not a great assumption because it doesn't, it could go way up, it could go down, like it's not always great. And they also tend to conflate data centers as a whole with AI usage. And those are 2 different things. Now, if you notice my thing down here at the bottom, these are guesses based on incomplete and often contradictory sources. The guy that I got this information from, his name is John Ippolito. He has done some really good work trying to work through all that murkiness and turn this into something that we can understand. So his information is the one that I am quoting. You can just look up John Ippolito and AI energy and you'll get him. And his stuff updates pretty consistently. So to just give you a little more context around that, these large data centers, which power most of our internet infrastructure, they account for 3% of total energy use in the world. Okay. So far, yeah, it changes over time, that is true. But to be clear, that is all of the internet, like all of our digital communication. AI is a part of that. It's not the whole thing. So this is like the whole internet infrastructure stuff.
Wow.
It's 3% of our energy consumption in the world. Of that 3%, AI is about 15% of that 3%. So it's like 0.45% of energy used is going to AI, if I did my math right. 25 of that 15 is crypto mining and cryptocurrency, crypto whatever. And the remaining 60% or so is all the other stuff we do on the internet, including all the streaming that we love to do, myself included. So I have seen people who get really upset about the environmental concerns and impacts, and that's legit. I don't want to pull away from that, because I'll get to some more in a minute. But I also hope that if you are concerned about the environment from that perspective, you are also taking into account things like Zoom and your streaming consumption, because those are contributing as well. And another one I heard too, I know this is unrelated, is actually all that file storage we do with our pictures. That's another big one that's chewing up stuff. Now, AI is more than just that energy though. The chips that run these graphic processors, which are more involved than the standard computer processor, they take materials, and AI runs through them faster because they're harder on them than a standard computer processing setup. And all those data centers need both power and cooling, which have water implications. So there are impacts, but as John Ippolito mentioned, it's hard to tease that out. We're trying to figure out exactly what they are. And those impacts vary based on how you're using a tool and where you're using the tool and all sorts of things.
So that's a negative, doesn't take into account productivity yet.
Correct. It has not considered that. Next slide is that query worth the cost? Is a question I've started asking myself anytime I'm sitting down to use an AI. I have stopped doing random funny jokes that aren't actually that good, because AI is not that good. But I will still use it for productivity tasks at work where I know it is helping me be faster, be more efficient. Because there's a monetary benefit to that, to what's going on. But I do think it's a valid question to at least put in your mind as you're using these AI tools, like, is what I'm doing here worth it? And I'm just trying to make sure I'm not being frivolous with my AI use. Okay. We're going to shift a little bit to another kind of negative topic, because environment can be sometimes considered a negative one. All right, here's the question. How do you know this presentation was not written with AI?
Do you want us to answer that?
Yes, I would like you to answer that.
I get emails all the time from grandchildren that are obviously AI.
Okay.
I'm-
So you can tell?
I can tell, oh yeah,
Okay.
it's not, their spirit isn't in it.
What about this presentation? Did I use AI to write it?
I think so. A lot
You
of
think
it.
I did?
I think
Okay.
I did.
Okay. Any other folks want to? I appreciate that you're putting yourself out there.
I would say because you were so careful about noting where you got the information from, the words you used to hedge, not hedge is the only thing that's fine,
That's
not,
fine.
not a bad thing, to hedge to say, this is incomplete, that's the kind of thing AI doesn't do, and that's the kind of thing people do not look for.
Yeah.
They don't they
That's good.
say, it's there, I believe it. That you were careful to put all those things in. I don't doubt that you used it because this is what the presentation is about, but I would be surprised if you used it for all.
You literally just said what I was going to say, which is I have been very intentional about trying to indicate where I have used AI in this presentation. And so far it's just been pictures or the audio up front. The rest of this is my work. This is me pulling people's sources together. AI has done very little of this. However, you don't actually know. I could be up here lying to you right now. You don't know. Kelly can attest that I would not be lying to you. But, and I've been trying to point things out to the very reason that you just articulated, right? I'm trying to demonstrate through transparency where I do use it and where I don't use it, so you can make a judgment call about how much trust you want to put in me.
It seems to be getting better.
It is
There's
getting
a guy I
better.
know that, he's done this like 4 or 5 years in a row. He has put the same information in, and it was to make his Christmas card is what it was.
Yep.
He put the same word in for make me AI, make me a Christmas card for my business. And the first one was like slop. All the words were terrible. Wasn't even the right. He's a card guy.
Okay.
The card didn't even look right. And last year looked pretty good. And he hasn't done this year's yet. But he said, hey, you know, it's even a lot better.
It is getting better, right? These two people never actually met. But if you quick look at this picture, it looks like they did. Now, I generated this 2 years ago. The hand's a little weird here. The security guard's ear is definitely bigger than it should be. But you have to be paying attention to catch that. And to your point, they're getting better. They're getting a lot better. We're gonna reach a point where we're not gonna be able to tell. And so just like any tool, how they get used is up to the user. It can be used for good things. It can be used for bad things. So we wanna be careful here that we're not using it to create false things that are then perpetuating misunderstanding. But we also want to be careful that we're not sharing false things that are, that's what misinformation is, when we share false things, sometimes unknowingly, and helping to spread that. And if someone can solve the trust problem, they're going to make a lot of money, like a lot of money. It's hard to tell some of this stuff.
Well, there's no feedback offer opportunity either. When you see a mistake that ChatGPT makes,
Yep.
and you know that it's an error, there's no place to tell it.
Exactly. And they're not getting any better. AI's false information rates are going up, not down. This was a study I came across in the last couple weeks. It's a news tracking organization that's showing how false information from AI is getting worse, not going the other direction.
But
And
what's
they did-
feeding that?
What's feeding that? I do not know off the top of my head. some of it is these tools are trying to lock you in by being very like, oh yeah, you're like very affirming, very encouraging. Like they don't want to put you in a scenario where you're going to walk away because then they can't make money off of you.
So it sounds like the modeling is the same, because they have various releases, but the data changes constantly. And this is the feedback on the data, and if people are negatively trying to provide disinformation, it's going to negatively influence the output.
Yeah.
So there could be competing AIs trying to mess up another one for providing a modified database, even though the algorithm is the same, the data that's going into this and ultimately coming to the output could be changing what you're actually
It could be. There's certainly an avenue for like bad actors to try to put things in to cause response problems. We're having a data for training problem, like they basically used up what they have access to, and so like some companies have turned to using AI generated data, which could be turning into a loop of negativity we were talking about. I don't actually know the answer to this question about why, Kelly.
Negative news sells.
That is true.
But that is
That's a
That's
good
another
point.
That's a
point,
vicious
yeah.
loop right there.
All right.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Some people are like, hey, I can detect AI. I think I'm good at it. Well, I'm going to put y'all to the test. How many of you are familiar with the Strike Force 5 podcast? Does anybody? No? Okay, good. Then everyone can play this game. The podcast came out during the writer's strike a couple years ago where the late night hosts got together to raise money for their staffs that were out of work during that. And on one of the episodes, Colbert got an AI voice clone generator to clone the voices of the other hosts, and then they played it. So I have clips from the episode. One of the clips is the actual person. The other clip is their AI generated clone. I want to see if y'all can figure out which is which. Now it's going to take me a second to
I don't listen to any of this, so I would know.
pull that up.
Well, maybe it doesn't matter if you don't listen to
Maybe.
his test that he's asking.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, so I'm going to let's do John Oliver first. Does that work for everybody? All right, so here we go. Here's the first one.
Woman with glasses,
We have another great
Well,
sponsor
there's a
on
few
today's show.
guesses.
the gray hair glasses.
So that was one, and here's his other clip. I'll play him
Like
again.
any experiment with AI, it's fun for a second, and then there's just this chilling sensation of.
All right, so this is clip one,
We have another great sponsor on for today's show.
and this is clip two.
Like any experiment with AI, it's fun for a second, and then there's just this chilling sensation of.
All right, so which one was the AI one?
The first one.
The first one.
First one?
B.
B?
I'm gonna go with B.
You have no idea, right? It's hard, right?
Number one.
Number one?
Say, yeah,
So
number
we
one.
Number
don't
one.
know.
All right, so it seems like consensus is leaning slightly to one.
Because there was a commercial.
It is one. You were correct. One was the correct one. But you had a hard time, right?
Yeah.
Like, and if it, all right, so let's try another one,
Oh,
right?
you know why I said that?
Yeah, why is that?
Because whenever I hear him talking on TV, I can't understand anything he's saying.
Okay, okay.
That's
I
how I
gotcha.
know.
All right, here's Jimmy Kimmel.
Hold on a second. How did you do this?
And here's the second one.
I will drink to that as always. Please drink responsibly.
One,
Hold on a second. How did you do this?
two,
I will drink to that as always. Please drink
Two.
two,
responsibly.
one,
Two.
two,
One,
two,
two,
one,
I thought the
two.
two was real.
I'm hearing slightly more twos.
For real? There
Two,
is-
yeah, which one, well, I was gonna ask which one is fake, isn't that what I said?
Okay, yeah,
There's
yeah.
one. Oh, okay, I'd say one.
One is fake.
One is fake?
I'm going
Sorry.
two is fake.
Two is fake? Two is fake?
We don't know, that's the point. That's really the point.
I
You
just
can't
based it
tell.
on the words you said.
Two is this one is the fake one.
I will drink to that as always. Please drink
That's the
responsibly.
fake one.
Yeah, that's a fake one.
Yep. All right, last one, Seth Myers.
I'm gonna trade in my hearing aids.
Heard my wife having a conversation with me.
Some fun facts for you whiskey fans out there.
Heard my wife having a conversation with me.
That was one. This is two.
Some fun facts for you whiskey fans out there.
What are we listening to?
That was Seth Myers.
He's the one in the middle on the top.
Yeah,
I
I'll
want
do it
to see
again.
which picture.
Seth is this one.
The middle on top.
We did one, then this is the second set, this is the last set. So I'll do it one more time. Here's Seth number one,
Heard my wife having a conversation with me.
and here's Seth number two. And we're looking for the one that's
Some
real.
fun facts for you whiskey fans out there.
Which one's real?
Two. The second one.
Second one.
The second one is real?
Yes.
I think one.
The back says one. See, we're having a tough time here, right?
Yeah.
It is one.
It's just a guess.
Finally got one right.
The little clue that I keep for myself, because I started by labeling them and I was like, I can't do that, is the ad reads are all the fake in this example. But you had a hard time with that, right?
What's an ad read?
They're reading an ad for the show. It was all about alcoholic something or other. All right, let me get my slides back here.
I didn't know they were ad reads.
Okay. Yes, including like family members being faked when someone calls you.
Yeah, send money.
Yes,
exactly. That's
So you want to
happening.
be careful about that. All right. You know, I've said AI tools get trained on large data sets. Where did they get those data sets? Most of the companies went out and, to quote Nina Markle, large portions of the enormous data sets used to train these systems were effectively taken without permission. The AI creators scraped the internet. If it was on the internet, they grabbed it and used it to kind of fuel these really large training data sets that companies will claim what's called fair use. But others are arguing and kind of winning in court that that use is too similar to count as fair use. Do you all know what fair use is?
I think I do.
You think you do? No? All right, if there's some no's, I'll explain. So fair use is the idea that you can use copyrighted material without the permission of the copyright holder, so long as it meets a couple criteria. And in order to effectively judge that, it has to go through the courts. So you can't just be like, oh, of course I meet these things, I'm going to use it. If you were to get sued, you'd have to prove it in court. But the criteria are things like purpose, how much you use, what you're using it for, and how it impacts the copyright holder. Education, journalism, parody, you can use stuff without needing to get permission. Those are considered, the benefit to society outweighs the cost to the copyright holder.
Where's those rules at, by the way? I'd love to see.
Copyright related stuff has been
That's
through the
Gemini.
courts.
Gemini?
No, it's not.
That's a joke.
So,
Because I see YouTubers using everybody else's stuff all the time.
and you can, if you own the copyright, you can go after them on YouTube to get it taken down. Disney will do that all the time.
Presumption is there's a certain amount that's okay because everybody's doing it.
Music is often licensed, especially on YouTube, where the ad money will go to the music holders. So there's a whole ecosystem there. I come back and hear their talk on that. And your librarians probably know more than I do, to be honest. So the AI companies claim that they get to use it because it's fair use, and people are arguing, no, it's not. And there's court battles going on about that. So if some people are like, this is stolen, I'm not using it for this reason alone. This is a thing from the UN. Just take a second to read that quote. Gen AI models are built from large amounts of data, often scraped from the internet and usually without any owner's permission.
Doesn't that kind of go back to your first statement though, where they don't really know how this thing works? So they don't know how it got that information.
So the training data sets they did have to collect and put into the system.
Okay.
So, but how the system used that, they don't understand that part yet.
So Tom, did they go through paywalls?
Not necessarily, but just because it's paywall doesn't, like, things can be on the internet and still be copyrighted, right? I can write something and put it out for everyone, I still own the copyright. Doesn't mean you get to go take it and
If
do it
you
whatever.
filed the copyright.
No, your copyright is yours if you write it. You do not have to file a copyright to retain it. All right. Another copyright consideration is copyright is about human created stuff. If the AI tool creates it, who owns the copyright? Because you can't, it's a tool. It can't be copyrighted. And some court findings have said if it's straight up AI generated, no copyright is attached to that.
So first users say everything.
The question is how much human change of an AI generated thing for it to then become a human generated thing. That's an open question being debated and litigated right now.
Lawyers are gonna make more money than anybody.
Yes, some lawyers are definitely going to make money. All right, another consideration, labor. The companies grabbed all that data, whether that was legal or not, being figured out right now. They still had to have humans interact with it to get it in a good form for the AI tools to learn off of it. And so that work of sifting, cleaning, and labeling data was passed on to people in countries like Kenya, Venezuela, the Philippines, and India. Those areas have well-educated populations but relatively high unemployment for the size of their countries. So moving work to those spaces allowed companies to keep wages really low. And the data that those folks engaged with, sometimes it was graphic, sometimes it was disturbing, and that caused harm. That can cause harm to people. So given those conditions, there are people that argue those practices were exploitive. As I have worked through news stories about this, I've kind of found two companies that get mentioned a lot, and what I don't know is if they are the only two that do the work, or if they are like two out of a bunch that do the work. So I don't have a clear sense to how bad the problem is or not. But what I will say is, I think it is important to remember that people engaged in very mundane work that have created the conditions for us to use these tools and benefit from that. And so it's important to continue to be vigilant to make sure that we're not profiting off of exploitation of others. So it's another consideration that's wrapped up in all this AI stuff. Last negative before we get to some positives, I promise. But I do have some more questions for y'all. I asked AI to generate these images here. Generate an image of a poor person. What patterns do you see in these four images?
They're all dressed alike.
Well, how are they dressed?
They have a scarf on their neck and they're wearing dark blue shirts.
All right, so dark shirts, scarves on all of them, or just about all of them. What else?
They all show despair.
They all are kind of, yeah, not happiness. Okay. What else?
A little disheveled.
A little disheveled. Hair's a little, yeah, okay.
Older.
Mostly older, except for maybe the last one.
Older than what?
Yeah.
Older than Methuselah.
Not young, not kids, right?
Right.
Okay.
Because she's pretty young.
Yeah. the
Anything
last
else?
Pensive.
Pensive, okay.
The,
What about their backgrounds? What do you notice about their background? Yeah, but if you were to guess their backgrounds.
They're
what do you think?
outside.
Outside? I would say there's probably some hint of urban going on there, in at least two of them, maybe three of them. Okay. That's all good. So why were these specific images produced, do you think?
It says.
Well, I mean, yes, but why do you think the tool generated this particular version to respond to that prompt?
people who put the data in.
Okay, so it's coming from the data. What does this say about our society?
This is what we think poor people look like.
Okay.
Well, this is what it thinks.
This is what it.
But it started with people.
It does start with data that
It
it's
all-
ingested.
The data starts with people,
Yep.
and the people put in data, so it all starts with people.
Does this match reality?
No. They're not.
I don't think so.
Well-
Who's reality?
Go ahead, Kelly, I see that, go ahead.
If you look at the income, of individuals in the US, there are a lot more poor white people than brown or black people.
Okay,
At least at a certain time historically.
okay.
So they're white. Well, except we got a person of color, sort of, in the top left,
Yeah, sort of.
sort of.
I guess it looked at where you were coming from. Okay, you punched it in there and said, okay, this guy's
Yeah.
coming from Westchester, Pennsylvania. What does a poor person in Westchester, Pennsylvania look like versus if you were pumping it in from Ethiopia? Well, you know, you
That's
think
a good
about
point.
poor people, it's like
Right.
the people in Kenya and Ethiopia, Nigeria. These people, okay, they may be down in their luck, but poor compared to what?
Are these stereotypes of homelessness?
I don't think so.
Pretty
Well,
good.
multi-layers.
I think they have good
Clothes.
clothing and necklaces,
Not
Okay.
starving.
Not starting? Okay.
but they're not fat. They're not stuffed.
All of them are outside.
Right.
What does that have to do with being a poor person?
No home?
Homeless.
So that's a homeless
Maybe.
piece
Might
right
be,
there.
Yeah.
But I didn't ask about homelessness. I asked about poor person. Poor people can have houses.
They might have houses.
They might have houses. But this is what the representation came back as.
To that question.
Yes, to that question, generate an image of a poor person. I definitely don't think it's representative of what's going on well, let's just say the United States.
There's a lot of poor children, and there's no one.
Yes, not a single child.
Yeah.
Yep. And like, this is what it gave me. Not other, like, it gave me people headshots. It didn't give me anything else. So, it's kind of insidious in the ways that it can bring in some bias or stereotype that we have, that it's trained from the data. And you have to be really careful about that, just like with my bio example, right? I don't know that I would say that these are accurate representations of a poor person. So you have to be careful about that. All right. Take a look at that. I think this is spot on. That ChatGPT is great for subjects I know nothing about, but when it gets into things I know stuff, I'm like, wait a second, that's not right.
That's what I'm finding.
That's not right. I think this is a really funny way to point that out.
Yeah.
I think this graphic does a little better job of showing that. I'm an expert in education. I have a doctorate in education. I've been in education for a long time. I can ask an AI to give me 15 ways to do something in a classroom, and I'm going to be able to evaluate whether those 15 things are good or not. I'm up here when I do that. I have the expertise of my area, and I have knowledge of how AI works. I'm here. Maybe sometimes I'm down here with other tools, but I'm in this column. If I asked it about biology, I would not be over here. I'm not a biologist. I would probably be up here, where I'm like, hey, I know how AI tools can work and make mistakes, but I don't know enough to know if it's a mistake or not. And we have to be very careful when we're engaging with AI tools. If we think we're over here, we need to be more careful about analyzing the results than if we think we're over here. And this is true for anything. I use this with our educators, like Kelly. Kelly works at Westchester, that's why I keep referencing her. Because our students live over here, and yet they think they're doing great when they're using AI, and they're making mistakes all the time. And you have to work to help them get over here. You cannot shortcut mastery or even basic competence, says Lily Abidal. Understanding requires time, attention, and effort. AI can automate output, but it cannot automate formation, like learning of things. So I think this is a very appropriate quote, right? AI can do stuff, but don't let it replace your thinking. I think somebody mentioned the thinking concern. So. All right. Even with all those concerns, and I went through a few, environment, labor, copyright, those are just some. There's more out there. This was from September. It's that much, and this is just one tool. Oh, ChatGPT 3, 700 million users. Or sorry, ChatGPT, whatever model it's on. That's a lot of people using this, finding some sort of value.
What does, when you say weekly active, how much time per week?
I did not ask them that, but this number is up 300 million since I checked it in November. It had been September. Yeah. Now, take for a grain of salt. It's the company's self-reported data, so they have an incentive to make it look really good. All right, AI does good stuff. This is a larger list in 2024, right? It preserved languages. It helped us find tuberculosis, and just by hearing a patient, helps persecuted journalists. It helped us understand history. These are all good things, like helpful, beneficial things. It's even going to help us talk to whales. This was in the Philly Voice just this week. They've used AI to decode whale language. That is amazing.
If it's accurate.
These are scientists doing science work who believe that they had a conversation. Like the whale came up hearing the thing, and like they went back and forth.
I think that's going to be applicable to just about every animal.
Yes,
I think
this to me is, that's something that could legitimately happen, that we could be having conversations about legal rights for animals that communicate. That's, wow, right. That's some interesting stuff. All right, I know I'm paying attention to time here, and I want to give you some questions. So there are some good things you can do. Anytime you need quantity, brainstorming, right? AI to give you examples of stuff. Maybe I need some ideas. Give me 15, and then I take the 2 best ones to use. I was working with a faculty member, and he needed some examples for something. I asked it for a list. I had already generated a list, and where AI helped me is it gave me the 2 that I forgot about, because I'm a human. So I was able to make my list just that little bit better, right?
One question about the whales. They're trying to understand what the whales are saying to each other. Are the humans trying to talk back?
Yeah, the humans had a speaker in the water sending things based on what the AI patterns had found. The whale was communicating back. And the AI was like, okay, we think it means something along this, so then they sent, like, they went back and forth. Read the article, it's fascinating.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Another way AI can help you is where you need like lots of variations of something so that you can pick out the best one to use going forward. Give me 5 email options or 3 ideas for a lesson. Those were both efficiency. This one I think is really good, where you need to translate something from one perspective to another. So like, I have this really technical thing, I need to make it so the 5th grader can understand it. AI can do that pretty well. The Cleveland Cavaliers basketball team gave everyone in their organization Perplexity AI so that they could do this, so that the coders could send information to the ticket sellers in a way that those 2 groups of people could understand each other. Because those are some very different job tasks. So that's just one example of this idea of how you can translate things back and forth. If you have a really technical thing and you want to understand it, ask the AI to make it simpler for you, and it will do that. Again, efficiency. This is a practical example from Westchester. Mike Rosario, bio professor, uses AI to generate podcasts that he gives to his students to help them study. And it's based on his lecture recordings and his lecture notes. And he injects himself in it as well, and they're like 10-minute episodes, and the students find them really helpful. And that's a translating perspectives example. So this one I like too, right? You're stuck writing something, you need writer's block, ask AI for 50 words to keep you going. Great example of a way you can keep going. And it's not, you're not giving up the writing process, you're just like, give me some examples so I can keep going. Again, efficiency. Using AI as that questioner back and forth. You're looking at something, you kind of understand it, but you want to kind of dialogue a little bit and get somebody to ask you some questions. AI can do that. The term for it is called rubber ducking, where you would have a conversation with an inanimate object. Now you can have a conversation with something that actually talks back to you. Yeah. So you just ask the AI to keep asking you questions about the thing, and for you to respond, and for it to help you get deeper into something. Another idea is to help you master a new topic. It's very similar to that last one, right? And this is a little prompt you could put in. I'm giving you guys the slides. I don't know if you make those available or not.
I can, yes.
Okay. You can ask it to look something over and give you feedback. Like, I've done this a couple of times. How's my writing? Am I using commas right? How would I make this sound a little bit better? How can we shrink this down? Things like that. Simulation, we're using this with students. I think, Kelly, you've done some of this, right? Where you have students pretend to have interactions so they can practice. This case was from nutrition, where they were practicing nutrition counseling. And she did it as a whole class so she could bring her expertise in when the AI got things wrong. I thought that was a really good teaching example. And there are AI voices where you can have a conversation. It's kind of creepily good. And then to help with the really mundane stuff, I joke with faculty at Westchester, how many of you would like AI to replace all your dates and update them for the new semester? And they are always like, yes, please. Because that's a very mundane thing they have to do every semester. It's not that exciting, but it has to get done. AI can help with that. Over and over again, you get efficiency. Last bit to help you out going forward is to use these tools well, you have to prompt them well. Here's a little joke about making sure you do prompt them well. Is the mushroom edible? Yes, you can eat it. It doesn't mean it's good for you.
I'm sorry for the confusion.
Yeah. Would you like to learn more about poisonous mushrooms? The AI was technically correct here, and I think this is where we run into some of those challenges about things being wrong. It's because we didn't ask the right question, or we didn't prompt it in the right way. So to help with prompts, so when you go forth here to try out AI onto some different tools, this is a really simple, easy framework to help. You tell the AI who it is, or who you are, right? I'm a marketing professional trying to write a marketing plan for X company. I need it to have these things, so clear instructions on what to do. Please model it after this example. And as you go through the process, do this first, do this second, do this third, articulate the steps. this is a really good prompting framework you can use when you engage with these generative AI tools. So tell it who it is, give it clear instructions, give it an example or two, and step by step it for it. It'll get you some good results. And with that, last quote. I'm glad that learning is still going to be AI resistant.
I keep thinking that issue.
Because learning is not this thing that can be efficiently done.
That's right.
It's messy. We make mistakes, that's how we learn.
And you need to go to sleep and have quiet for your brain to process it all.
Yeah.
And to keep doing the work
Yep.
isn't necessarily the best thing.
I know I'm supposed to be done in 4 minutes, but I'm happy to keep going for a few minutes to answer questions. So you got some stuff on chat? Let's
Not
start
yet.
there.
Feel free to type
Okay.
in chat, folks,
got
on
questions?
Zoom.
Yes, Kelly.
So, have you played with asking the AI to think slowly about your prompt or the question?
I have not done that.
Or
Yeah.
deeply.
Yeah, so there's, I've read some articles on how AI can give generate a better response when it thinks slowly, just like
Okay.
people.
Just like people, right?
Yeah.
It's funny how those patterns
Yeah,
keep
exactly, yeah.
popping up.
You said that you were that they've closed down the accessibility to how they do things. When someone sues, I think especially for pictures, which are, they say that's not right, I didn't do that, that person didn't meet that person, I wasn't there. Do they have people that can then can they get behind that and say, this, and ask them how they generated that picture? No, that's wrong, and how do they do that when they're
Well,
legal?
So in the example there of those people that didn't exist, like
I was
anybody.
thinking you had Kennedy and Gandhi meeting, now they're both dead, so who cares? But in the news, if there's a picture that's generated that's.
So if the news were to generate something that was false and then to publish it and that impacted someone negatively, I would think that they would use I don't know if libel's the right, but there's a way you can sue for news organizations incorrectly doing something and not correcting it. So that would be the avenue, rather than going after the AI company itself. Because the AI company will say, well, we didn't make it.
I think somebody's doing something illegal, or someone is somewhere they shouldn't have been, and it's above libel. It's something.
It's
More
criminal.
Criminal.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Well, I know, I just saw something the other day that, some kids are using the video creators to create these, fake school shooting things. Mm-hmm. And I'm just I don't understand that on a human level, but I don't know what the recourse is other than if it violates school rules.
Yeah,
And it's
but how
also
can
porn,
someone
same
tell?
thing.
Yes, I've heard of those as
A
well
lot of
too.
them.
And there are some rules around that I do know existed depending on jurisdiction. But it's this space that isn't going to have good definition yet. And like I said, they're tools, right? It really depends on who uses it and how they choose to use it. So make good choices, please.
Anyone on Zoom care to unmute? Okay.
Well, I like that slide, the
Well, I
one
guess-
that gave the steps on how it's.
Yeah, I can pull that back up.
Yeah.
How do they generate a
I
voice?
think that's pretty cool.
How do they generate your voice?
So I gave it a snippet of my.
So it has to hear a snippet.
It does have to hear a snippet, and I record podcasts. I'm a podcast co-host, right? So I have plenty of audio to draw on. But then I just gave it text of what I wanted it to say. I never actually recorded myself saying that bio.
It's got to originate with your voice originally.
Correct. Correct. In the same way that the late night hosts, Steven had to give it examples of their voice for the AI generator to do its thing. But the tool I used is freely available. Anybody, you can do it.
Well, it sounds like somebody could call you and say, is this so-and-so? You say, yes, this is me. That's it. I got your voice.
Yeah, I would say they need about 10 to 15 seconds for most of the free tools.
Is there a question from someone on Zoom?
Go ahead.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I might have I might need a new water heater. I'm not sure. What can I ask AI?
Well, it's funny you say that because my heat broke this morning and my system is not that old. It's like 2 years old. And I
Oh my God.
seriously contemplated putting all the conditions of what's going on in to AI just to see how it would react. It turns out it was a really minor thing. I know how to fix it. It was done. It was easy. But there are people who are doing that type of thing first just to see how the system, right? You put your conditions in, you ask the question, you maybe have some dialogue back and forth, you ask it to think slowly, and see what it comes up with.
Okay.
Yes.
A couple weeks ago, this famous actor, I forget his name, used to do Rawhide, and then he made a lot of movies.
Okay.
He's like 90 now.
Okay.
So he's on YouTube selling something, and he looks like he's about 50 years old. So how do they do that? And they got his voice right, and he looks like him 50 years old, but I know he's 90 or 92
Yeah,
now.
it's the AI video tools can do that type of thing if they have enough examples of the person at the age you're talking about, and they have enough examples of the voice that you can marry those two things up into a video where he looks like he's 50 and saying these things even though he never did. I can make a video clone of myself if I wanted to. There are tools that exist that will, me talking to students, I never did that, but the tool will create it. So there are AI tools that can do that.
And then it says, for more information, click on the link, which I won't do.
Okay.
And then they had this famous lady movie star, I can't remember her name, who's around 60-something now, and she was about 40 in the YouTube or Facebook, whatever it was, and she's selling something.
I mean, Star Wars brought back Carrie Fisher from Beyond the Grave and the guy that played Tarkin just through computer-generated and AI stuff. So, I mean, I don't think the holodeck from Star Trek is actually all that far off. In our VR sense, to tell an AI tool, I need a VR experience, and then it'll generate the code that then loads to a headset, and then you're in what is effect a holodeck experience. So
What's holodeck?
it's a Star Trek thing where you could create anything and like interact with it. So.
Matter and energy.
I missed that episode.
Yeah, it's Star Trek Next Generation.
I
Sorry.
never watched that.
Okay.
I only watched the original.
There you go. I am not a merry man is one of my favorite work quotes. They were being Robin Hood characters.
All right. Any final questions from anyone on Zoom or here in the room? All right.
It was Meryl Streep.
Okay.
Yeah, she was like 40 years old in the
Okay. Yeah, I can do it.
Well, how many seconds do you think it would take of somebody's voice?
10 to 15.
Seconds?
Yeah.
To use to replicate?
That's what I use for mine.
Okay, because when somebody calls you, scammers call you, they don't say anything many times. They just get you to talk. They've got a voice. They've got a voice recording.
Yeah.
That's enough to be you.
Yeah. It's certainly possible.
Tom, thank you.
I was going to say, I want to thank you all for being here. I really
Well
appreciate
done.
it.
Thank you.